Hi, well, as you know, blog's not been about for the last few weeks. Sorry for all those who follow the blog regularly. The reason it's not is because I've had some big changes in my life. Been very fortunate and had the birth of my son. So for the last 15 years I've done nothing but go very serious match fishing, and in the last 6 weeks or so, although I have still been on a few matches, I've definitely toned it down a bit. We're looking to pick it back up again in sort of February time once everything's settled down. So the blog's going to come back then with a vengeance. Probably every week, every couple of weeks, all the big events, looking at my fishing, how I can be doing things better, just as it always was. So I hope you're all looking forward to that. I thought I would round up the year though. I've done this in the past. It's a nice way of analysing your fishing, seeing where you've been going right, seeing where you've been going wrong, and just having a little look at things as they were. Some of the highlights, if you like, from the year. You can't always remember everything, but just off the top of my head, what I can remember and what I feel is going to be good going forward for 2016. So to start with, last winter, just in the early part of the year, I was looking at the Staney. That's where I do a lot of my fishing. I also did the pole pairs, and that covered my winter fishing, which is what I've been doing a bit so far this winter, but like I say, a lot less seriously. It was great. I finished up in the winning team of 3 on the Staney with partners Matt Godfrey and Tom Scully. It was absolutely fantastic. We caught a load of fish. I was second individual in the league, so I was really pleased. Had a really good league. Caught a lot of fish. We caught a lot of perch, I remember. They played a big part in the weight, so it was really interesting. That's in stark contrast actually to this year on the Staney so far, where lots of other fish are playing a part. So we'll have to have a little look at that, see how that changes throughout the winter. The pole pairs was a bit up and down for myself and partner Joe Kerry. We caught really well on a couple of rounds. We actually had 2 rounds where we both won our sections. We were first and second, which was great. Won plenty of money. It was really good. Unfortunately, we had a couple of poorer rounds, so we did end up just missing out on the top 4 overall. That's a competition I haven't been able to commit to this year as seriously because of, like I said, what I've gone on. But had some interesting learnings. There were a lot of skimmers to be caught. We fed a lot of fish meal ground baits to catch these skimmers, and that's something I'm looking to work on just going into the new year. What ground baits are right? What's the best feeding technique? Something that's going to catch me a few fish every time I sit down on a commercial when it's still a bit colder. So that was sort of like in my thoughts moving into the new year. I went to Whiteacres. Had a really good Whiteacres festival. I was a little bit unlucky, to be honest. I ended up coming 11th, just out of the top 10. Really disappointing. I felt really disappointed because I had 2 very poor pegs out of my 5, which I managed a 3rd and a 5th off. And I think just one of those pegs, if that had been a peg capable and I'd have fished a good match, I would have turned it into a festival win. So I was literally 1 peg away, because I did have 2 firsts and a second in my other days. So, I did have a good week that week. I did learn a lot as well. So I think one thing that stood out for me that week was I felt there would be a lot of method feeder fishing. Usually is in the spring, fish start to feed aggressively on a method feeder because it's an introduction of more bait as the fish are waking up. I also thought there might be a little bit of shallow fishing, but it was the other way around. There was hardly any method feeder fishing, but shallow fishing played a huge part. A lot of the fish were shallow, and it really was a big part of how you caught throughout the week, when the fish were up. So that was important to me. That was important to keep an eye on what was going on. I'm just trying to think back. I might have had 3 wins actually. I think I had 3 wins. That's right, 3 section wins, a 3rd and a 5th. See, I told you I'd have to struggle to remember it all. So I was in a brilliant place with those 3 wins. Just one other day would have been enough. So, and that's not to worry. That is what Whiteacres is about. I've been lucky to win there before. So it was nice to go, and okay, you don't get the rub, but I think you've got to be a bit philosophical. Moving into May time, I started to get quite a lot of focus in my fishing towards fishing on the World Club Championships. It was very much a focus in my mind that was going to play a major part. So I'd started to prepare for that. I'd started to look at rivers on June 16th about where I could go, but in between time I like to focus on my commercial fishing, and I've been doing quite a bit here and there, but I was lucky enough to go to the Lindome Lakes Festival. Now, as you know, Lindome Lakes is fantastic. I absolutely love Lindome. The range of fishing, the quality of fishing, the owner's a bit loopy, like I'm kidding, Neil's great, but the fact that there's such a vibrant ownership and management of the complex makes it fantastic. So I love going there. He's got some big plans as well for the festivals in 2016. I think he's talking about putting a lot of money up for a sort of a fish off, if you like, after the festival, so that'll be interesting. But I was lucky enough to get on that festival. I finished the week with 4 section wins in the second, so I had a really strong week, and I won the festival. Some key things that week for me. I think everybody thought it was the end of May, it'd just be shallow fishing, a bit like what Whiteacres was. Very warm, very high pressure, but it wasn't when we got to Lindome. And a lot of people committed themselves to fishing shallow, and I didn't. I changed my approach. I realised that the fish weren't feeding shallow, even on some of the lakes where you'd think they had to be shallow, they just weren't. And I caught really well on the bottom with pellets, in the margins with baits like ground bait, maggots, things like that. And that was the difference for me. I think I was just one step ahead of everybody from the start of the week, and that made a big difference. It gave me a chance to turn that into a bit of a win. So really pleased with that. That took us on to another big match on Lindome Lakes, which was the Winter League final. I'd actually gone and had a match the week before on the Stainforth and Keeby Canal, which was a very big open match as a warm-up to the Winter League final that was being held on the Stainey. We were in the runners-up final, and I actually came second on the Stainey with a lovely net of skimmers. Something that I haven't caught in a long time on that canal. I can't quite remember my weight, but I think it was pushing 30 pounds, something like that. So a really great day. So I was starting to find a real bit of form, and to be honest, that had been the case through the years. Through the weeks and months, I fished a lot of matches, and I was catching a lot of fish. And I think when you're catching a lot of fish, you've got to look at some of the reasons why. Yes, you will be drawing good pegs, but it's not always about that. You've got to make the right decisions. You've got to be looking and thinking about how the fish are going to feed and trying to get the most out of your pegs. And that's what I managed to do on a lot of occasions. I was fishing matches and I was analysing the situation. On the Winter League final was a great example. On the Winter League runners-up final at Lindome Lakes, I drew on the strip lake in a peg where there was a chance of some carp. Okay, so I thought to myself, right, a lot of people will fish for F1s on this lake, but because the conditions were the same, the fish weren't really having it shallow. I could targeted carp on the bottom with bigger pellets, and I had a great run of carp, and I caught 160 pound. I more than doubled anybody else on the lake, and I won the match. Now, I'm not sitting here telling you, oh, you know, what a great performance that was. I had a good match. It was the decision that won that match for me. If I would have sat and fished shallow for F1s on that day, I might not have even won the section. But because I changed to bigger baits, I fished on the bottom, which is where I felt the carp were feeding, and I caught some big carp at 168 pound and won the entire match. It was a very big match, so I was absolutely over the moon with that. A really nice victory to take me into then my trip to Slovakia. Now, Slovakia for the World Club Champs was always going to be the highlight of my year. Nothing for me was going to top the World Club Champs because it was such a big event for Barnsley. When we got to the venue, it was unbelievable. You've obviously, if you get a chance, go back and watch the vlog when I talk about it in a bit more detail. But the venue was running really hard. Big floats were required. And it was a really interesting week. We caught some bleak, we caught some nice Vimber and Barbel on these big flat floats. But I'm not going to lie to you, going into the weekend, I felt if we came in the top 10, it would have been a miracle. I actually joked with the lads that we should be knighted if we got a medal, because it was that alien and that unique in the fishing that I carry a lot of confidence in my fishing, and I just did not have the confidence. I remember Matt Godfrey saying to me, we're sort of all laid in the room at night, lights were off, and he shouted across, you know, I hope we can do it tomorrow because you don't seem very confidently. And I didn't. I just didn't think we can do it. When I got up in the morning, I made a decision to commit to the tactics that we had. Absolutely commit myself, 100%. Because you know you can go fishing, because you know you're good at fishing, you have to do this at times. You have to believe in everything that you've learned and apply it into the fishing, and hopefully it will pay off. And it did, massively. We thought we were behind, but as it turned out, we weren't at all. I had a great 2 days fishing. I came 3rd and 4th in my section. No, I didn't. I came 3rd and 4th in my section. See, I tell you, I can't remember everything that goes on. 3rd and 4th in my section, which was a really, really great result. I was absolutely over the moon with those 2 results. I do not believe I could have done much better from the pegs I was on. So I was absolutely over the moon. It just happened as I started fishing, it clicked in me. It clicked what we needed to do, and we started catching a lot of fish. News came down the bank, we'd secured a bronze medal. Slovakia, the home team, Czech Republic, the local team, they'd taken the 1st and 2nd. We actually weren't that far off the Czech Republic, which was an incredible result for a team that fishes it all the time. And we walked away with bronze, and every other nation made an effort to come and congratulate us because they knew how difficult it was for any other team to get a medal apart from the 2 local teams. So we were over the moon. I don't think I'll ever be happier with a bronze medal. And we had Alan Scottorn in our team, who is vastly experienced. He's fished loads of championships, and I don't think I've ever seen him happier to win a bronze medal. So a great result, and we came back absolutely buzzing. That took me no rest, of course, straight into the national championships on the Gloucester Canal. Had a good match, caught a bream, caught 3 or 4 skimmers, finished 3rd in my 44 peg section, which I was really happy with. Unfortunately, as a team, I'm not going to sit here and say we drew terribly. I don't think we drew terribly. I think we drew okay. We obviously didn't draw well enough to win it, because we didn't win it, but at the same time, when you do win a national, you've got to fish well as a team and draw the pegs capable. Now, Dorking won the national. They didn't just draw the pegs to win. They drew the pegs that can win, and they absolutely smashed it with an incredible score. I think they would have won off a lot of draws on that national. I'm happy to give credit where credit is due, and they did a fantastic performance. I think they were probably on a better set of pegs than what we were and what a lot of other teams were. Put those 2 things together, and it was an absolutely incredible score. So congratulations to them. That meant they're off to represent England next year in the World Club Championship. So I hope they can come back. I'd love to see an English team win it, and I'll be backing them 100% to win that. I really hope they can do it. That took us into Evesham. So again, no rest at all. Straight into a couple of open matches. As I've said before, at this point, I'm probably having my best ever year. I've had an incredible consistency. I'm really pleased with the results. I've had some big wins in some big matches, and it took us into Evesham. Evesham weekend's massive for me. There's a big crowds. It's really competitive match fishing. We had 2 open matches that I managed to get on. There were several others, but I managed to get on 2 of them. I had a 4th in the match with £9, and then I actually won the last match that I fished before the weekend with £10.4, I believe. All on bloodworm. Bloodworm fishing was dominating. The fishing was brilliant, better than I've ever known it, and the river was responding to the bait. Over the next week, there was full moons and a bit of cold rain, and the river turned. All the small fish shut up shop, and it was a case of targeting other fish. About halfway into the first day, I realised that, and I set my stall up to target other fish. I caught a couple of half reasonable perch, nicked a few bleak now and then because I thought I might stand a chance of framing, but I kept giving myself a chance of a bigger fish. I had a bit of cover, fed some chop worms, and I felt I had a chance of a bigger fish. Now, if you're lucky, you'll catch a decent perch. If you're super lucky, you'll catch a tench. And if you are unbelievably, Lee Kerry lucky you'll catch a barbel. And I was that lucky this time round. I have fished many times on that river and not hooked one, and I've hooked one and I've managed to get it out. On the pole, I would have said, we didn't weigh it, I would have said it was 7.5 pounds, something like that. It wasn't a massive fish, it was a big fish though in terms of the match, and it gave me just over 11 pound, where I probably had about 4 pound of other bits and bobs, a big 3 pound, something like that. Gave me over 11 pound, and I was second in the match. I was delighted to come second. I have been third before in that match, and I would love to win it. I'm not going to lie to you, I would love to win it. Could I have won it? It's hard to say. It's hard to say. I don't think I could have done much difference. I spent some time at the start of the match fishing for roach because I felt that's what there was going to be fish to catch. Maybe if you'd have just completely ignored that and caught some bleak and given yourself another pound or so of fish, then maybe I could have, with the barbel, won. But that's very, very difficult to say. And with such good results on bloodworm, I was happy with my decision. So a very, very good example of fishing to the conditions. The following day, I drew a peg, 51, the river had some water in it, and it was a bit quick still for roach. No roach fed again. I started off for him, but after about 40 minutes I thought, well, I'm not wasting my time. This is my time to change. And I'd fed with a bait dropper and some worms and bits and bobs for other fish. I'd also been flirting an odd maggot across as well. And I picked up a lighter rig, I ran it a few times, and I caught a really big perch, about 2 pound. It snagged me in the weeds. I had a wrestling match and I got it out. And I think, you know, it might be your day when things like that happened. I went on to catch 9 or 10 eels and weigh £8.4 and come second in the match. 2 seconds in 2 days, won nearly £3,000, and really that was sort of like the pinnacle of my year, because the consistency up until that point had been very, very good, and to go to this big weekend and continue it on, I really was on a bit of a high. The team match on Monday was great as well. We actually tied on points for second and ended up third. I came second in my section and fifth in the match. So, you know, I've been in the frame for all 3 days at Evesham. And when you drive home, that's something that you can be really proud of, because the fishing is so good. Really, really enjoyed it. And that was a very, very good highlight of the year. Gave me a lot of confidence, and I went out to the World Championships to help England. Myself and Matt Godfrey went to help the management and the team on the bank. We had a fantastic week. Slovenia is a beautiful place where the World Champs was. This bronze medal for the team probably meant as much as ours in Slovakia, because after day one they were languishing down the leaderboard. Hadn't got it quite right, hadn't drawn very well, and I think that combination of things left us just off the pace, and we felt no chance for a medal. To then come back the following day and produce a score on that river of I think it was 12, 13 points, something like that, was fantastic. Absolutely and utterly fantastic. And it for me reinforced England's #1 status of teams in the world, because to come back and snatch a bronze medal after the day we had was absolutely brilliant. So I was totally and utterly over the moon for the team. I really, really have a lot of time for the guys. We all get on really well. There's a great relationship there, and I think that that's going to carry us in a lot of strength going forward. You know, the management have an awful difficulty in picking the team. I get asked the question all the time, and I'm happy to talk about it. You know, do you want to be in the team? Do you think you should be in the team? The management do the best job they can. They've got to pick a team of 6. They've got to pick who they think are the best anglers to represent the country at the time. So good luck to whoever goes. If it's me, I'll give it my all. If it's not, I'm going to go and help them. And that has to be the right attitude for me, because I know how difficult it is to pick teams and to manage anglers and what have you. And I think because the anglers on the fringe and the anglers in the team are all get on so well, There isn't that conflict, and it's really, really exciting. I really enjoy it. I'm very, very privileged to be part of that team. So, you know, it's exciting. I went on coming back to from the World Champs. I actually went to Loch Ken in Scotland, and I was a bit disappointed. The place was gorgeous. The surroundings were incredible. The fishing had the potential to be brilliant, but again, we got punished with a full moon, cold nights, and the roach just didn't come in. You needed to draw in the right areas, and if you did, you could catch some fish. Matt Godfrey won the event. Brilliant performance both days, but I caught very little in some very hard areas, and I was a little bit disappointed because, as you can imagine, up until this point I felt a little bit invincible, and it just goes to show how fragile fishing can be. I know that if I would have drawn in the right areas, I have the ability to catch the fish to do very well. So I was a bit disappointed that I didn't do very well, but not to worry. Back into another event. Whiteacres came along. Here we go. It's all happening thick and fast. Whiteacres for the Preston Week. Now, the Preston Week is a fantastic festival. Like I said, if you've seen the blog, catch up on any of these individual events on any of my blogs. If you go back through the YouTube channel, you'll see all the events clearly listed. If you want more detail, click on that and you can get it. I went to Whiteacres, loved it, absolutely loved Whiteacres. Had a good week, carried, see, you've got to try and remember the results again. I think I had two firsts, first 2 days. No, I had a first on the first day from a tough peg, catching silverfish and F1s. That was probably one of my results of the year actually. I drew Trelawney peg 4, and I had an incredibly difficult section of anglers to beat. Some of the best that I know, and to win the section I had £80 of, I had £30 of silverfish, I had 2 carp, and I had £40 of F1s. That was a great match for me. The next day I never had a chance. I drew on a pond called Canal. It was absolutely hopeless. I've already said on my previous blog, it's terrible that lake is used in the event because there's only 2 or 3 pegs that you can do any good off. So I think it's disappointing that lake is in. We then went to Porth and I had a great day, won my section, and in the final 2 days I had a second and a third, and that gave me enough points to come 7th in the festival, which was a really nice result. I was very happy with that. Just having a little think because I always have to check to make sure. Yeah, 7th, that is where I came. Yeah. So I had a really great week, really happy with that result, and that gave me an opportunity to be in the Part D Masters final. Drew peg 8, fancied it. Of course, I'm thinking I'm back in form, and unfortunately the fish weren't there. The fish weren't. Usually the fish are on 8 and 9, 15 and 16. That's the best 2 areas in history of the lake. However, it's quickly becoming 3 and 4 where there's a few fish. 3 years ago Harry Billing won. 2 years ago I think it was, Harry Billing won, and they caught next to him, and it was a repeat this year on the same pegs with Andy Gelder making no mistake and fishing a fantastic match to win the Park Dean Masters. Andy's a great friend of mine. We had a little bit of a sharing agreement, and I couldn't have been happier to see him win. You know, he is a great guy, so really pleased with that. Walked away thinking not to worry, the fish weren't there. We basically all caught nothing up the rest of the lake. I think the final needs a bit of a look at, definitely needs money spreading out. Again, catch up on the more detailed blog if you want to, but you can see now my year's panning out quite nicely. I've had a very nice year, and we went to the Home International. Now this is probably my last event of the year because I wasn't to know this, but I'm returning from the Home International. I was going to have my son born a month early, and this was the final event for me, another team event. Went out, had a great time practicing, great time with all the lads. On the first day, I drew A section. I actually wanted to draw A section. I was on A3. That was the worst peg in A section. I know that sounds hard, that sounds a little bit like I'm blaming a peg here, but there was 4 pegs. You wanted to be 1 or 4 because there was a gap on either end. A1 was end peg, A4 had a big gap, and then A2 was lower down to the water. It was beautiful with the wind. So when I was on 3, I was a bit disappointed, and I thought, just get your head down and have a great result. I actually had a great match. I actually came 5th in the match, but I was 3rd in my section. I was disappointed with that, I have to admit, because I felt that I'd fished well all week, and I did fish a nice match, but the stamp of fish on the 2 ends was just too big for me to beat, and the 2 anglers did really well. Made up for it the next day. The team still needed to win, and I was really happy with my performance. I came 4th in the match the next day, won my section, caught a lot of perch, totally changed overnight, still cold, lot of rain. And again, you're noticing this throughout the year. Look at the weather, look at how things change. If there's a change in conditions, the fishing will be harder. And that's what happened, and I learned that throughout the year. And once I started catching the perch, I didn't waste time trying to change. I just kept putting a fish in the net. Finished with over 5 kilos to win the section, and I was best weight for about 20 odd pegs, so I was really, really happy with that. And more importantly, 1 point and a team win. It was a great event to win. I hope the home international happens again next year, because I loved being part of it. So it was really was a great event. Like I say, that pretty much completes my year. Fished a few matches since, had a 2nd in a match, had a section win, and a few iffy results, mainly because the focus hasn't been quite the same for the last few weeks. So when I am looking towards 2016, what are my goals? What are my targets? Well, I'd love to get a chance to put the England shirt back on. That's always the first goal. I'd love to go and give that everything I've got. I like to have a little go on my commercial fishing in the closed season when the rivers and canals aren't particularly very good. Well, obviously not allowed on the rivers, and canals tend to be a bit iffy, so I like to have a little bit of a go on the commercial scene then. And I'm probably going to look forward to a little bit of White Acres later in the year, and some Riverfest matches. Riverfest isn't something that I've done before, but I'm going to give a bit of time to that. The Nationals on the Trent next year, so I really fancy going and doing some rivers. So come June 16th, I'm going to be putting my Riverhead on again, because that really did see me have a great run. That reminds me, I did actually manage to win the Riviera Festival as well last year in August. Missed that one out when I was having a good run. So that was some great fishing as well. So I'd probably say, all in all, when I think about my results, 2015 was my best ever year. You know, a really consistent set of results. For a lot of frames, winning some great things. I think for me, that's all you can do in an angling year. I would say my goals for 2016, like I said, put that England shirt on, try and win a few more matches, try and get a title under my belt if I can. They're my sort of main goals for the year. Fishing being fishing, nothing's predictable. But if you work hard and commit yourself in 2016, you can definitely win some events. So blog will be back in February. We'll pick it up again from then. I hope you've enjoyed a little bit of me reviewing my year for 2015, and I'll catch up with you in 2016. Have a good one. Bye.